I have the great pleasure of hosting Professor Roman Yampolskiy. Professor Yampolskiy, thanks so much for your time and for doing this podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
Wonderful. I would like to start our discussion with the first question on AI safety. How would you define the concept of AI safety to someone unfamiliar with it?
We are creating AI, which is no longer just a tool. We are creating agents, agents which can make decisions, which can maybe disagree with us on something, and they're becoming very powerful. In many cases, they're smarter than a person. We project they will be smarter than all of us eventually. So, how do we make sure they don't harm us? They don't harm humanity? How do we make sure they want what we want? And that's essentially what AI safety is.
Mhm. And what led you to choose AI safety as your career focus?
I started work in cybersecurity and biometrics, and I quickly noticed there was some problems with online bots stealing resources. Uh, so my PhD was on online poker and preventing cheating by online bots. But I quickly realized the bots are getting better and better, and this process will continue. So it was kind of natural extension in that direction.
Mhm. And would you say will AI safety efforts across the globe succeed in stopping AGI from going in unwanted direction?
Well, we haven't succeeded yet. I don't think anyone claims they know how to control AGI, and that's kind of a big problem. My latest book talks about all the limits to what is possible in that space, and more we discover there are quite a few things we don't know how to do, and maybe they're impossible to do.
Mhm. And what are the most pressing risks associated with advanced AI nowadays?
So we are told that we will get to human level AGI and maybe superintelligence very soon. 2, 3 years is a very common prediction. Prediction markets are saying it, top CEOs are saying it. As of today, no one claims to have a working safety mechanism in place. So really, we will have this competing species, alien species. We are not telling it what to do. We don't know how. So whatever it decides to do is what's going to happen. I cannot predict what the actual outcome would be, but if we are not controlling it, it could be really bad.
And basically, you often mention S risks, and I risks. Can you explain those three terms?
Right. So most people, when they talk about existential problems with AI, they think about destruction of humanity, destruction of our quality of life and our potential. Suffering risks are somewhat less frequently mentioned. They talk about really bad outcomes, kind of digital hell where you have suffering and torture. And essentially, at that point, you wish for existential problems so you don't exist. I risks are ikigai risks, risks related to meaning, loss of purpose, loss of ability to contribute meaningfully to human flourishing. You are not the best writer, not the best artist. Really, in every conceivable way, AI dominates.
Mhm. And how do you distinguish between AI ethics and AI safety?
So ethics was very common in computer science for the first 50 years of AI, where we didn't really have any AI agents. We were creating tools, and we wanted those tools to kind of play nice within human framework. So if we could encode common human practices, ethics, then the hope was those tools would kind of not violate our norms, expectations, laws, and that was a good solution. I don't think it scales well to agents, to above human level intelligences. So that's why we saw this big switch from everyone's doing some sort of machine ethics to now it's friendly AI control problem, value alignment, all these other uh, challenges for what essentially is how do we create super intelligence without regretting it.
Mhm. And would you say that AI can be truly aligned with human values, given their complexity and everything else surrounding?
That's a great question. So I don't think it's a well defined problem. We don't even kind of agree on what we mean by that. Whose values? Mine, yours, corporations, 8 billion people. We don't have a common set of values. The values are not static, they keep dynamically changing. And if we somehow manage to fix them and agree on them, we still don't know how to program them in. All these concepts of good and bad and love are very fuzzy, very hard to encode.
Mhm. And what is your stance on the control problem in AI development?
It seems that no matter how you define control, direct control, delegated control, some sort of hybrid intermediate, there are limits to what is possible. We cannot indefinitely control super intelligent machines. So I think we will not be able to. It's sort of like a perpetual safety machine. We can maybe make a specific model safe, GPT-5 or something like that, but not GPT-7, 27, 30, no matter how much it interacts with the real world, self-modifies, learns new skills, interacts with potentially malevolent actors, other AIs, and it will never make a single mistake. That seems somewhat presumptuous to think that's possible.
Mhm. And do you believe that current AI systems pose a significant existential risks?
We don't fully know all the capabilities of existing systems. So obviously we are still here, we are not being tortured, so things are pretty good right now. But what is happening behind the scenes, what are the capabilities of the latest models, we only have hints about that. So we see sometimes they lie to us, sometimes they try to on purpose deceive, escape from their confinement protocols. We're starting to see glimpses of what is possible, but I think at this point it's not obvious that they are currently dangerous in a true sense. Obviously, there are privacy concerns, there are concerns about social impact, impact on democracy, but those are kind of smaller problems we can deal with.
Mhm. And what role does transparency play in mitigating AI risks?
So many people think if we can understand exactly how the model works on the inside, what it's thinking, then we can do much better in terms of safety. One, I think there are strict limits on what can be explained for models of such size and complexity. And two, even if it is possible, it actually helps the AI become more capable, work on self improvement a lot more. So while it starts as safety work, it actually ends up being mostly capabilities research.
Would you say that AI can be made resilient to adversarial attacks?
That's a great question. Again, we have to define exactly what we mean by adversarial attacks. If we're just talking about taking an AI tool and kind of fooling it into incorrect pattern recognition, there are quite a few methods for strengthening their capabilities, looking outside of current modality, multimodal authentication, things of that nature. If we're talking about fully general intelligences, the attack surface is infinite. You cannot foolproof it against all possible future attack states, whereas an attacker just has to have one vector of attack. They have to find one weakness and they'll succeed. So I'm not sure that's possible. I haven't seen it phrased that way in terms of more advanced agents.
And would you say that it would be possible in the future to create AI systems that are both highly intelligent and completely safe?
I don't think it's possible. I think there is a trade off between how independent, how creative, how novel a system can be, and how much control and safety we can get. So there is some sort of perfect golden spot where we can get the benefits we want, but not the dangers which come with too much capability. So maybe narrow super intelligent systems for specific problems would be quite useful to us and still something we can test and guarantee safety for. Whereas general super intelligences don't seem to be subject to such level of control.
And since you also work in cyber security space, besides AI safety, what would you say that are the biggest challenges in combining cybersecurity and AI research?
Right. So one of my books is called AI Safety and Security because you can't have one without the other. If you create a safe AI and somebody can hack into the models, steal the weights, modify them, you don't have a safe AI. So you need to be able to secure the system from external threats, from insiders, from interaction with the environment in terms of modifying its utility function. Both have its own challenges and limitations. I think there are also limits to how well we can secure systems, mainly because there is always humans in a loop who can be bribed, blackmailed, influenced in many ways.
Uh-huh. And would you say that AI could maybe make cyber attacks more dangerous in the future?
So we know AI is capable of finding zero-day exploits. We also know that AI can be used to patch those loopholes. The main concern for me is large-scale kind of spear phishing attacks where you use social engineering to again penetrate human defenses, not the computer infrastructure, but find weaknesses in people. And with deepfake video, audio, completely immersive environments, it's very easy to get people to click on whatever you want.
Mhm. And what are some main and crucial lessons AI developers can learn from cybersecurity experts?
So we do know that there are strict limits. Nobody thinks there is 100% safe software with no bugs in it, software which is guaranteed against all attacks. That's one part of it. Also, just in terms of scale of damage, we've seen situations where software which controls airline industry, controls power plants, has been compromised, and the damage impacts millions of people, maybe up to a billion sometimes. We're likely to see that with AI systems in the future.
And would you say that there are big problems on trusting AI systems in critical infrastructures such as flights, medicine, hospitals, and so on?
So we definitely don't want AI controlling nuclear response, and I think recently we had some agreement between U.S. and Chinese counterparts on that. So we're not going to put nukes under the control of advanced AI systems, at least not for now. In general, you want humans to have final decision power. You want us to be able to undo any damage. It becomes harder and harder. Humans are kind of slow. Having a human in a loop slows down the whole system. And a lot of times we are not capable of fully understanding decisions which are being made. So even monitoring the system's life is not feasible. A lot of times it's kind of security theater where you have a human in the loop, but they just keep clicking approve because they don't fully understand what's going on.
Mhm. And now, do you believe that AI could ever achieve consciousness or self-awareness?
I think it's possible if you assume that there is no anything magical beyond human biology. If it's a materialistic system, then you can create a simulation of it in other substrates. It's not just carbon. You can do it in silicon. You can do it in other substrates. We don't know how to test for that really well. So if it already happened, we wouldn't know how it's different from what we see right now. Some people claim current large language models are already conscious, and they suggest we treat them with certain level of respect, not torture them, whatever that means for such systems. So I don't see a strong argument for why it would be forever impossible. Maybe not today, but it seems like at some point, unless there is something unique to our biology, we have a soul, some quantum effects which require a quantum computer, not a von Neumann architecture, it's likely that it will happen.
So maybe the better question would be how to test if AI is conscious.
Right, but it's a very difficult problem, right? We don't know if other humans are conscious. We kind of assume so. The hard problem is hard. It's not surprising. I do have some ideas about relying on optical illusions as sort of inner experiences and being able to see, okay, if this other agent experiences this novel illusion in the same way as me, I have to give them credit for that experience. They perceived something which wasn't there, so maybe it's a rudimentary state of consciousness I can give him credit for.
And now, one popular and very often asked question. So, are we living in a simulation? And if so, is there a way we can escape somehow?
It's becoming more popular lately. It wasn't popular back in the day. I think we are. As for escape, I'm still here. I haven't found a way to hack out, but I'm interested in seeing what can be done. There are some good statistical arguments for why we are likely in a simulation. Just being able to create virtual environments with very high fidelity, with AGI inside of it as agents, maybe with conscious agents. means we can create worlds similar to ours. And if we create enough of them, then statistically it's more likely that you are in one of those simulated environments. If it's software, then of course, again, there is no perfect software, so it's possible you can get some sort of benefits from manipulating the substrate.
Right, and once we reach AGI, and if that AGI turns against people, in what ways can it hurt them?
So if we are in a simulation, maybe there is some external limits to us creating dangerous superintelligences. Maybe that's not permitted by the simulator. So that could be a nice safety measure. As far as kind of assuming it's the real world, that's all we got. I don't think we can outcompete superintelligences indefinitely. So if it's a adversarial relationship, we're not going to do well.
So, what would you say is the probability of AI destroying humans?
So people often ask me about what they call P-doom, right? But they don't specify what time frames. So if you look at short time horizons, I don't think I'm an outlier. I think there is, 20% chance over the next couple of years, and it gets progressively higher. But I think overall, if we look at until the end of kind of universe, it's very likely that we will be taken over by some sort of artificial intelligence we create eventually, even if there is another problem which happens before that. If there is World War III or asteroid strike, we have to rebuild the civilization. Okay, so 500 years later, we're back to where we started. We're still creating dangerous AI. So I think overall, long term, it's approaching kind of one. It's going to happen.
And would you say that AGI could become a world dictator? And if so, what would that look like, basically?
So dictators are humans. They have kind of similar preferences to what we want. I don't think AI would want to accumulate a lot of palaces and have a harem of sex partners. So very different concerns. Now we know AIs have certain drives where they try to accumulate resources, preserve their own independence, and guarantee of kind of safety to the software state. So that would be more concerning, that they try to take over a lot of resources. They try to outcompete anyone who may be dangerous to them. So maybe humans will create a competing AI. So it's better to take out all the humans, things of that nature, more than kind of standard dictatorships.
Mhm. And what are some ways on how society should prepare for the potential impacts of artificial superintelligence?
Again, part of it is unpredictability of those systems. We cannot really anticipate. If things are going to go bad, there is not much we can do. If it's good, you don't have to do much to prepare for it. We kind of quickly adapt to utopian situations. So I don't have any specific advice, but I would kind of think, what can you contribute to a world with superintelligence in it? What can you offer? You're not the best chess player, you're not the best driver, so what is it, something very unique and human? Like, I know a lot of us can experience internal states. That's something. Maybe you enjoying ice cream is somehow useful to superintelligence, but we need to think a little more about that.
Mhm. And what would you say are the ethical limits on the kinds of AI systems we should build?
So I suggested multiple times, it should be limited to what we can test, understand, and control. So narrow systems for specific problems. It's awesome if we can cure cancer. Let's train a system on medical data. It understands molecules. That's all it understands. It's not also trained on all the other data in the world. We saw some success with systems like that for protein folding. We saw very capable systems for specific games, even very complex games. So I think that's the upper limit. Don't try to create something completely general where it's also a scientist, an engineer, it's an expert of all trades.
I see. And how do you see the role of government and regulation in AI development?
In a short term, it may be helpful to have some regulation in terms of how much compute can be used, what data can be used for training, just to kind of buy us more time to see if there is any safety measures we should be taking, we can take. I don't think long term it's going to make a difference. The cost of training AI becomes less and less. So that means it's harder and harder to control it through government regulation. Governments are good at controlling large scale projects. If it's a Manhattan project scale situation, you can find, billions of dollars of compute and do something about it. If you can do it on a laptop, it becomes much harder to track and control.
Mhm. And would you say that AI could reshape our understanding of what it means to be human?
Yeah, especially if we can use their help for science and understanding the universe, understanding our biology. Again, hacking the simulation could be an interesting application of advanced AI. So, no doubt it will give us lots of new knowledge.
Mhm. And do you think that humanity should pursue digital immortality, such as mind uploading?
It's another interesting question. So, immortality in general sounds like a good thing. I mean, if you don't like it, you can always cancel out later. But digital is different because you're modifying what it means to be you, right? You're no longer someone who's interested in human values as much. Temperature doesn't matter, food doesn't matter, many other things kind of get out of the way. So you become more and more like an AI, more like the super intelligences we are talking about. So maybe that's not the main goal for some people.
Mhm. And what do you see as the next major breakthrough in AI research?
So far, it looks like just scaling things works well enough. Some people are saying, okay, it's not gonna work because we don't have enough data or we're running out of compute. But so far, we see almost weekly progress in some subdomain of AI. And we can create artificial data, we can create simulated worlds, we can have self-play kind of competitions between those agents, creating economic societies. So we can evolve it the same way we evolve biological systems with evolutionary computation, just on much faster scales. Instead of a generation taking 20 years, we can do it in a matter of seconds.
And could AI be used to solve the alignment problem itself?
Well, that seems unlikely. So it's sort of catch 22. I need a friendly aligned AI to solve the friendly alignment problem. If aliens gave us their AI already solved one, we can use it to help us with our local values. But I don't think you can say, oh, I'm going to create superintelligence and then ask it to make itself safe. That just doesn't seem right.
And how do you see the relationship between AI and quantum computation in the future?
Right now, it looks like we can do almost everything we want without quantum computers. There is some reason to think you can do more or faster with quantum computers. Since we don't have them in practice to any measurable degree, I don't really know how much of impact it's going to have. Again, we talked about consciousness, so maybe there is some need for this quantum states to be incorporated to get full self-awareness and kind of internal experiences, but I think it's too early to tell for sure.
Would you say that AI can play a role in enhancing human intelligence?
Well, yeah, we see hybrid systems coming. Neuralink is one example where you have access to a powerful computer, which obviously allows you to be more capable, have extended memory. But I think very quickly, instead of having this extra tool, which is beneficial to you, the tool becomes the agent and a smarter agent. So at this point, you become kind of useless. You are slow biological bottleneck, and either explicitly or implicitly, you will be removed from decision making by this hybrid system.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about AI safety?
Not just safety, but AI in general. People think that experts know what they are doing, and they don't. It's not an engineering discipline in a sense where we design every aspect of it. It's more like experimental biology, where we plant something and watch it grow and then run experiments on it to see what it's like and what capabilities it has, but maybe like with alien biology, so extra complexity, extra steps.
Mhm. And what do you think the AI landscape will look like in like 20 years from now?
I hope we're around in 20 years. That's very optimistic of you to think it's a thing. I'm hoping in 2 3 years we're still in charge.
I see. And is there a scenario in which you envision humans and AI living peacefully together?
It's possible for whatever game theoretical reasons, superintelligence will want to be friendly. Maybe it buys more time to accumulate resources. Maybe it sees us as a backup for regenerating itself in case it's needed. So it's possible it will kind of be helpful and leave us alone. I still don't see what you would be contributing in that symbiosis, right? Usually it's two benefiting intelligences or two biological species helping each other somehow. It's not obvious again what you can contribute to superintelligence.
And what should education systems change to prepare future generations for an AI-driven world?
So a lot more teaching of how to use those systems. They are still tools to a large degree today. So how to utilize them, what capabilities they have. A lot of people don't fully understand what they can do, how to prompt them properly. I think if the tools we have today were properly deployed in the economy, we would automate, 80% of jobs. We would have trillions of dollars of extra wealth, but it's not deployed yet, and it's because most people don't fully understand what can be done.
Mhm. And my final question: what would a world dominated by AI look like in both the positive and negative scenarios?
So going back to what I said, unpredictability of superintelligence. I don't know what a smarter than me agent would do. The negative outcomes are easy. We either don't exist or we are very much miserable. The positive outcome is a lot of our big problems, diseases, aging are solved, and we have a lot of freedom to be creative and really enjoying the universe.
Professor Yampolskiy, I would like to thank you for this wonderful conversation and for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.